All right, we're live. Episode 9. What a year it has been. Can you believe it is already that time? It's Christmas time of the solstice tomorrow. The winter solstice upon us, darkest day or brightest day, depending on your location in this realm. But the energy is upon this ancient, it seems like portal time. I don't know. What is
Rebirth,
we have
rebirth,
rebirth,
regeneration.
Another trip around the sun.
right? One
And then
more
we have that
orbit.
upcoming Cancer full moon. They
Oh
call
wow,
it
yeah.
the cold moon, because it symbolizes the frost of like what's starting, and with the because it's after the winter solstice.
Right,
And
but at the same time, I just have to quickly interject. What's with the moon and that the light is actually colder? Like as people claim to measure being in moonlight, and it's like being in shade. It's colder. Colder
Okay, so this has to
in
do
the
with the
moon.
sun, right? So our sun, when I was a kid at least, was orange or yellow. And over the last 30, 40 years, it's basically become white. And Jay Widener and I actually talked about this in depth at Contact in the Desert. Julia and I were both there, as well as on an interview that he had done with me. And it's interesting because when things get lighter, they get hotter, but the frequency of the light changes. And so the light refracting off of the moon from our sun back to Earth is going to have a totally different um,
Energy, yeah.
chemistry or alchemy to it, in a sense, right?
Yeah, and it's a good point. And of this supposed new age of the sun, and like this Hopi prophecy, this shambalist or shamanistic tribal story, like everywhere around the world, of the different ages of the sun, and that it seems like, oh wow, are we actually now in a white pulsar, this new age? Is it actually literally physically being dictated in the sky by our sun and what sort of energy it's putting off, what sort of light we're living in? And then these past stories of like red skies, or that we were in the blue sky, and right, and
Could that
Katrina.
also have to do with the sine wave that we're going around our galaxy? Supposedly, if we're even in a galaxy, we don't know because we're looking from the limb toward the center versus looking at it from above. I love all those NASA photos or whatever of the Milky Way, and it says you are here, and the question comes to mind: where is camera?
yeah.
How do you even know we're there? Yeah, seriously. But if assuming our sun is bobbing and weaving above and below the galactic plane, and as it goes around, it goes through different sectors or densities of fluidic space, particle space, all these things that were strangely leaked in Star Trek, especially in Star Trek Voyager. It's like there are pockets of space that are fluidic or plasmic
Yes,
or dense with
denser
biometric
energy, and
material.
they claim galactic energy wave density that we're hitting going through the plane of the inertia of
Maybe our
the
sun is
field right
heating
now.
up or not because it's
Well, yeah,
gaining more
it's got
energy as
more
it's reaching the
energy. If
plane.
we're going through a field of thicker density energy, then there's more thicker mass energy going through everything, both like the planets, the moons, and the sun, the stars, everything.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Totally.
got to talk
And
about the oh my god particle at some point.
what is this?
yeah,
We briefly mentioned this in the green room.
In
So
oh
91
my God, tell
in
us.
Utah. And they're saying that it came from like a supermassive black hole, like Centaurus A. And but that was found in 91. Now in 2021, they discovered a particle that was similar, and they nicknamed it after the Japanese goddess, like Amaterasu
hmm.
particle, like it's that sun goddess. and that was also discovered at that observatory in Utah. And so the mysterious source, like that was fascinating to me. Of like the things that are going on with the sun lately. Do you guys follow like the KP index or the coronal mass
Yeah,
ejections?
the like in the past year, the amount of crazy aurora borealis like being overhead, and like the intensities, the different colors, the lengths, how far south it's gone, it's just insane. And
And
that's because the
If
from
you
sun
were
is
to wander up into the
active.
hills around where I am here in Oregon, you could see the aurora borealis last year and the year before. It was crazy. It's like, whoa.
From what I understand, that it's like what they thought was going to happen at the middle of next year, like which they originally thought, I think it was 2030, like the sun activity, they like were off by what they expected, and then was saying middle of next year, and then now they were saying like in the last, like since September, they started saying it's speeding up. Like what we thought was going to happen next year, it's kind of starting now. So it's
And
like what's
was
going
it
on with the
this
sun?
past year in 2023 that they claimed that the core of the Earth stopped spinning, or like changed which way it was stopped, and then like did it
This
start
this
going the
is
other way? What
this
was
is
going on with
interesting
that?
because this happens a lot when CERN goes off. Not to be concerned or anything, but
Not to be concerned that CERN might be
Use your
stopping the
discernment.
wow.
anyway,
Got gong moment.
in
Concern.
no conspiracies abound, but in 2015, CERN launched like some crazy reactor test with the dual hadron colliders. And so when those things spin up, they create an incredible magnetic atmosphere, like 500 times what we produce naturally on Earth.
I should try
And
to
they've
look.
noticed that the off balance core, although we can't really see into our planet, so we don't really know. The furthest drill that's ever gone down was like 11 kilometers, and that's not very far. And so we don't really know how our planet is made up, but we have a hypothesis that it's multiple layers of the mantle, and then this molten core. And every time CERN kicks, the core will shift to where CERN is, so it's being pulled, and that's interesting, and it causes all sorts of alternative reactions. That aside, recently this happened again. I haven't actually looked into the last time CERN kicked off some super magnetic reaction, but could be related to that. However, recently in the news, my father even pointed this out to me, that they're starting to think there's a fragment of a secondary planet that crashed into us called Tiamat. They just
Really?
yeah, and so and this is what created our moon, and so part of this is still sitting there. I've got a lot of thoughts about our moon that I'm not entirely sure that we were whacked or double whacked, or that a whack was even involved, because we're talking about a vacuum space. You're going to have a ripple effect through that vacuum space of any event like that. That's still going to create a massive wobble. I mean, it's never going to stop. You're in a vacuum. And so Joseph Farrell has briefly touched upon this. I think he was on Dark Journalist talking a little bit about this as well. And I was fascinated by it. It's like, oh my God, there is something to that. And so the whack, double whack, probably not. Pulled in by magnets, don't know. But the fact that they're coming up with this hypothesis now that our core has shifted to one side and is stationary, they're like, oh, we've all of a sudden discovered that there's this, extraterrestrial object in our Earth's core. Extraterrestrial, doesn't mean UFO or whatever, or alien, but it's a foreign object that possibly happened when we were collided into at some point in the very far past. And this gets into Tom Van Flandern and some of these other scientists talking about the exploded, planet hypothesis. And Marduk and Tiamat, either collided into each other or had a ripple effect against each other. One of them possibly exploded, which created our asteroid belt, the Ring of Diamonds, in the Sumerian tablets, right? And either we and Mars were moons of the secondary planet, or the secondary planet is us. because if you take away our water, we look worse than Mars. Mars has this huge scar across its surface. I can't think of the name of it, but there's this huge it's huge, larger than the Grand Canyon in the United States. It takes
Yes. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
like
It's
Solar
like the
Marianas, but that's
feature
not
of
it.
Mars.
It's something Marianas, yeah. Anyway, and so it's like deeper and longer. It's
talking about the
huge
Marianas
gouge.
Trench? Are you talking about the Marianas Trench?
Yeah,
No,
I
that's why I was like, it's not here. That's on Earth.
Marsiana Trench. It's the Marsiana Trench.
Oh.
But I
So there's
forget the
thoughts
actual
that
name.
this was a solar outburst, and this was caused by solar lightning. Okay, and there's a thought that a lot of the trenches and what we see in the Southwest, all that area, was also because of a solar outburst. And you got to think, okay, if space is fluidic or plasmitic, okay, and we gained a lot of water. We tend to gain water every year through a leakage of our atmosphere, and that's not from rain or anything else. It's coming from space. And so the question is space fluidic? Is it partially fluidic? Is it
and plasma? Right now they're saying
particles,
that emitting
dark
it's
matter is all plasma. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. That it's nothing. It's a vacuum. There's nothing there. And then they're like, oh, it's EM energy. And then they're like, oh, it's plasma. And then it's like, well, plasma is extremely charged and like energetic.
Plasma is
like
probably
crazy.
The best guess.
Yeah, like what is actually up there?
So anyway, if you take away
speaking
all
of
the
what's
water,
up there,
the firmament is like a dam protecting the water.
Well, I was going to finish that real quick. If we take away all the water on Earth, we are scarred, like massively scarred. We are like a cobbled together gravitational planet that has massive scarification. We don't ever see the Earth from space looking at the Pacific Ocean. If you were to zoom out and look just at the Pacific Ocean, you will not see landmass on either side of the Earth. That's how big the Pacific Ocean is.
Happy birthday, John Ross.
And so that's like this huge trench under the water. Anyway, that was where I was going with that. It's like, okay, you were talking about this possibility of this, foreign object colliding with the side of the inner Earth of the planet, and so it's like, they want to have this convenient way of describing it. Oh, it's TIA. It's this collision event, and it just
Tiamat, the original fourth planet that Mars was a moon of, potentially.
Or us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. And so what we have on screen, just to bring back the concernment and discernment, that is a picture above CERN and this like portal-like charge. And look, it's bringing down rain from the heavens and almost looks like a portal that's opened up above it. It's kind of crazy. And that's like a mild photo of the ones that used to be up. I can't even find them anymore. There used to be hundreds of pictures of the nutty electromagnetic storms above CERN.
I bring up the only reason why I bring up CERN is because Julia was talking about this oh my God particle, and so CERN has been looking for the God particle, the Higgs boson particle that supposedly created the universe. But it's funny that the more we blast these particles, the smaller they get, right? And so I'm fascinated by the oh my God particle.
Well, this fact that they're saying, that it came from like a supermassive black hole, or it's like, what's to say this isn't remnants of what they're doing at CERN? You know what I mean? Like tracing of like, oh yeah, it's the void's fault. That's where it came from.
Right. So the question is, in the oh my God particle, is this something that is smaller than a Higgs boson? Is it a muon that was trapped? There were all these muon detectors that were trapping these nucleogenic particles that would come through and penetrate Earth. And somewhere in New Hampshire,
they said it was like traveling 1.5 quadrillionth of a meter slower than the speed of light.
How could they even detect that? We don't have cameras that can record something.
Right?
Not to discredit the story at all. I'm just like, that's crazy. How would we even know? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, well, it makes you look into like this telescope, like of what was used to measure it. I don't know. It is.
Need to talk to Eric Hecker again and the neutrino detectors in Antarctica that he worked on, and what he claims them to be faster than light technology and potentially off-world communication technology down there.
What is the fly's eye? So that's what captured this. High resolution fly's eye or high res detector was an ultra high energy cosmic ray observatory. Interesting. So they're doing this is like muon detection. They're capturing this in some sort of fluidic environment as it's passing through Earth at quadrillions of miles per hour. My God. How do
it
we
equals like a billion giga electron. Like what?
how
What the heck?
how do we even harness energy like this? That would be amazing.
Right? Like, what are they building? Where are these things?
There's one in New Hampshire, I believe. It's a muon detector, and so it will capture these particles going through a fluid. It's like I don't want to say it's a sterile fluid. It might be a salinic fluid, and so it's able to slow down the transfer of the energy, but the energy still continues through the Earth. And so this oh my God, I had to look this up. This is like I've never even heard anything of this.
Right? I was like, I was obsessed with it. Like, and I'm asking people about it, and like nobody could really explain to me because I'm picking up on it has something to do with like iron, and that's interesting too. That
Iron. Whoa. Okay.
there's sometimes when I remote view things where I'll just know like certain elements and certain things, and I don't know how because like I'm not educated on that stuff. Like, but
here's something for the science nerds in the audience. Can metals become plasmas? You're on mute, Bernie.
Perfect. So then it gave people a chance to answer. But yes.
Yeah, seriously. I am very curious of that. Can metals become plasma? Plasmas right?
So Keshi teaches that even monoatomics are in plasma state and that you just have to activate it. But when you get into a flame, into an arc, into like the ionized state of this element, it will, or any element in plasma state, it starts putting off light, glowing. Right?
It has a quantum effect, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know with quantum physics now, you can have an instantaneous reaction between 2 points, a teleportation event. And so is this, Julia, a witness of that? That's the curiosity.
Another point. This may seem like far out there, but a lot of they talk about different types of beings, aliens, not liking iron at all, and like people, like women or like people that they mess with a lot, like will become deficient, like or anemic. But that they can't stand iron. So it makes you think if a lot of them reside within the earth and there's like all of a sudden these particles that are coming that have the iron in it. And then, there's all this talk of like, preparing for some type of solar event where you have to go underground. I don't know. It just makes me think.
Interesting. You've kind of just disproved the alien theory or debunked it of building the pyramids. Because the entire Giza Plateau has iron deposits all through it.
Boom.
Like almost like lightning strike would hit the bedrock and spread iron throughout all of it like a lightning.
Wow.
It's all over the Giza Plateau. When you go down into the Osiris shaft, you see it in the walls, in the floor. Yeah, it's everywhere. And so that whole area is limestone, granite, and iron. Yeah, mostly limestone. So the granite would be above the limestone, which is interesting, or with it. not beneath it. So, yeah.
How
Iron.
often limestone and iron seen used building together in megalithic structures and ruins? Quite
Okay, so look at the Great Pyramid itself. Okay, you have this massive footprint. There's 260 some odd millions limestone bricks that build up the outside of it, but the interior of it is this black diorite, which is a granite. It's a thicker, harder granite with a crystalline, like quartz crystalline infusion. So it's igneous rock. It's all this igneous rock, right? And the same is true. Same is true with rose granite. And so the box in the king's chamber is rose granite. The rest of it is diorite or black granite, basically. And then you go down through the tunnels, down through the corbelled ceiling grand gallery, and that's all granite as well. So, but everything outside of that is limestone. And so
isn't limestone, let me get like dielectric?
Limestone is electric, and Yusuf Ayawan proved this. He has a ring in his shop with all the different
like insulating
stones.
something.
And you can put an electrode to each of the stones.
I've seen those videos, right?
See which ones are actually electrical, and you put one to granite, and it has no reaction. But if you put it to limestone, it's like sparking off the side, and it's like, why is limestone like that? Because it's a porous conductor, where the granite is an insulator, and so you have a conductor or
you're making it dielectric, having them alternating.
It's interesting
so
too.
The
all
limestone
the granite
sits outside of the granite, and so you're creating a pressure effect, which creates a piezoelectric effect, which then charges the entire device or site.
100%.
People are like, oh, but these are tombs for pharaohs, and it's like, no. First of all,
maybe portals.
The granite in Yosemite, there's a lot of portal activity, and there's such like, I think the largest amount of granite in Yosemite, and there's like a lot of portals there. Yeah,
Yosemite. Oh, interesting.
Was unaware of that.
And they talk about even in the early 1900s of stories of people where they talk about a portal opening, and that they go into it, and the lighting's different. Some of them describe it kind of like a cave. They talk about other things, the ones that are returned, because there's some that are, they don't survive. But it's interesting how much portal activity take place in national parks, especially Yosemite, and that high amount of granite there. I want to say it's the largest amount of granite in one location. My mom used to live there below Yosemite Falls, so I should know this. But there's a lot of like that being correlated.
That's quite the epic place. Yosemite is, Yogi Bear and
my little nephew grew up going there all the time. He would call it my-semity. Not Yosemite, my-semity.
My-semity. It's Yosemite. Come on, get it right, guys.
Well, there's a huge population of bison there, as well as wolves because of that. Like, there's a lot. Like, it's actually recovered, I believe, some of the wildlife there. And then just the geysers are crazy.
What's so cool is there's this time of year, they like Horsetail Falls. It's like at the end of February, and it's just, I think it's over 2 days, maybe 3. And the way that the sun hits the light, and then the waterfall comes over and makes it look like fire coming down, and people come from all over the world to photograph it in that time span. So it's like a month before the equinox.
So are you going home for Christmas? Are you gonna be? Can we?
That's what was so awesome, was going up there for Christmas, because my mom's birthday is a couple days after Christmas. It was always so magical.
Oh my goodness! As he realizes it's his own mom's birthday and quickly has to call her. So I will be right back in 2 minutes. Love you, Bob.
So
no, I'm good. I've got plans for tomorrow. All right.
pulling a burn eye, huh?
Right? Oh God. Only on the year of review, as life goes.
So back to this particle real quick. So what do they want to do with this? What where have you gone with how deep have you gone into this rabbit hole, I guess is the question.
Oh gosh. I mean, they say that I just think that they are having a hard time saying they have no idea. Like they really don't know. And so it's like, oh, it's a really high energy, it's a really high energy range. And and the guy, Toshiro Fuji of Osaka Metropolitan University in Japan, he said, I thought it might be a mistake. Like he like couldn't even believe it.
Perfect. So no, that's awesome.
But they
Wow.
didn't talk about it until they just released it November 22nd or 23rd.
They're assuming it was a proton. This is why I'm curious if they had a muon detector that actually captured this, because this getting into muons and new all these particles.
Well, it's called the telescope array, which I think opened in 2008. And then
now this is
so
crazy.
what
like
exactly is a muon?
So a muon is a cosmic particle that is able to penetrate our atmosphere and our Earth's core and move out the other side. How on Earth we can detect these, I'm not sure. As I said, in New Hampshire and I think in Delaware, there's a couple of universities that have these. They're huge tanks of water, and they will get things that come into the water at high velocity that they snap a photo of, because the water will be able to slow it down based on its salinity. Okay, so this is a muon detector. Now, what's interesting is what they've done in the Great Pyramid and some of the other pyramids is they're using muon detectors as these plates. I wish I had photos of them. I do somewhere. I think they might be on my Megamist website when I was there. And
yeah, they say it's like 507 ping pong table size.
Yeah, they're small trays, but they'll set them up like a ping pong table, exactly, inside of like the Queen's chamber, and then nobody can go in there. When we were there, they had a whole section that was sectioned off that still had these in there. And what they will do is they will record the particles coming through the structure onto these plates. Don't know how this works. And if the particle is deranged or for lack of word, tarded, coming through this area, it means that it's gone through either a spatial event. So there's a structure or a space throughout the solidity, or there's a structure that's even harder than the limestone or whatever there is. And so they have now found a structure above the Grand Gallery, almost the same size as the Grand Gallery. They don't know if it's at an angle. And they found a structure that goes around the interior at a little bit, probably at the same level as the Queen's Chamber, but interior. And I've been in the Great Pyramid twice. My God, you don't feel like it's a structure made for people to walk in. We've had to put steps and railings and things to hang on to just to make it into some of these areas. And so you go through the grave robbers entrance, because they don't use the main entrance, which somebody carved out of the bedrock. I don't have any idea how they did this. They carved it out of the limestone, and you end up in this hallway that, if you go forward, you go to the Queen's Chamber. If you climb the stairs, you go up into the Grand Gallery and then into the King's Chamber. Why they name these, I don't know. And then if you go down to the left, you go down the descending passageway, which is like 500-600 feet down in both directions, 600 feet down and 600 feet down angular wise, into the subterranean passage. And you're in the subterranean passage, and it looks like there's massive water damage in there. It's not solidly cut out of the bedrock, but you're in the middle of the bedrock, like way down underneath the pyramid. And then there's a well shaft that goes down, and two, at least you can see that from looking over the railing, there are two tunnels that go in either direction. So one heads towards the Osiris shaft, and the Osiris shaft heads also towards the Sphinx. And as I say, there's at least 10 layers of these tunnels that go beneath Giza. They're easily. And you see this because you see what they call test pits outside of the Great Pyramid that look down, and they're filled with rubble and sand. And it's like, how much rubble and sand is filled into this? And then you find ancient drawings of this area, and it's like, oh, well, they went down, and there was a 45-degree angle again that went down again, and then they come upon this box. And it's funny because in a lot of these spaces, like the box in the King's Chamber, the box in the Osiris shaft, and the box in this drawing, none of these boxes actually fit in any of the tunnel systems that you get down to these structures in. So,
right? Like, how were they constructed and transported in there? And it sounds like that there was heavy usage of like some sort of machine action going on or something going on in
if you're trying to fit people
water.
in these shafts, they're not going to fit. And you find the same thing at the Serapeum. It's like there's no way you would ever be able to move these boxes, 100-ton boxes, perfect diorite, into these alcoves that are 6 feet below the planar level of the Serapeum. All of them are perfectly north, south, east, west. How do you fit 24 of these or more? There's other chambers that have been found in these alcoves without people. I mean, you would have to do it without people because nobody's going to fit there. There's nowhere for anybody to fit. If 100 tons, are you kidding? That's 200,000 pounds.
Would you feel like it would be tied to a water geyser beneath it?
This is interesting that you say this, Julia,
Right.
because all these sites, even in Peru, they're all attached to water sites.
Yep.
All of them. That's really interesting. And the tunnel systems underneath the Giza Plateau that I believe go down 10 layers. A lot of them are the size of semi-trucks or the interior of like a semi-truck cargo car. And they go anywhere from 18 kilometers to 50 kilometers into the Western Desert. And the question is why? So
that's one thing I've seen a lot, like with remote viewing, was the geysers, like tied to it. I saw it a lot. So that's why I'm asking.
So the Western Desert used to be known as the Nile. Well, here we have this. A guest on Shem's show was talking about in relation to the Phoenicians, the Finns, this whole idea, the ancient culture, right? And I thought the Nile, even though this was a German name that was put on it, is interesting because it looks like during the last cataclysm, something hit the Mediterranean and spilled up and over into that area of Libya to Egypt. And what's fascinating, I discovered when I was doing a recycling project, I wanted to find a way to recycle large construction site pieces. How do we do this? And one of the ones I stumbled upon were all these broken pieces of massive aqueducts. You could fit 4 stacked semi-trucks inside of these things, maybe 6, 4 stacked and 4 wide, inside of these tunnel systems that were left in the Libyan desert. Well, why is this? Well, because under Libya, Gaddafi had discovered a massive water aquifer. And so this is a remnant of the cataclysm. And he wanted to share all this water with Egypt and Sudan, all the surrounding nations that this water pooled into. So he was creating a cistern to be able to distribute this. Anyway, regardless of that.
No, that's actually huge. I've had people actually bring that up, wondering, like asking questions about specifically that before. And
are you serious?
You're confirming it, so that's.
I find it a difficult topic because we're talking about Libya, and there's a lot we could talk about there. But the fact that Gaddafi was going to give this water away for free to Egypt and the surrounding nations that consume this water aquifer was mind-blowing to me. Regardless of that, the fact that we had this satellite image of where you can see the water that flowed over the Mediterranean into the Western Desert, which would have all at that point been jungle, right? So all this water is flowing in. You have a massive oasis or a small sea, and it drains into the ground. But the ancients that were building these sites decided to bring water to the sites and deposit them back into these reservoirs when the Ur-Nile was there, because why would you have 50 kilometers going into the western desert? You wouldn't, unless there was a water source there. And the water would drain downhill, in a sense, or overhill, or through,
for sure. It was
through pressure or pump
engineering. Marvels of engineering for
all
agriculture.
the way to Giza. 10 layers of these things. So who's building these and when? Because we don't ever hear about this. But we do when we get into like the Osiris shaft and some of these other, like the subterranean area of the Great Pyramid. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there, but I thought that was
okay. Happy solstice to everybody.
Super fascinating that we could chat about, because it really isn't talked about. And we were talking about muon detectors, and so the question is, a lot of them are collecting information from above, but are they also following that muon or proton particle or oh my god particle further into the earth to see if there's anything down there? And I think that's
often the answer is no, and we literally know less of what's below us than what's above us, and that's kind of scary when you truly think about it. But what was I gonna circle back with it being that solstice time of year?
You're gonna do your silver thing.
The silver, yes, the full moon, but there was something else that will come back to me. I was just thinking, oh yes, all right, the new age and the new year. And that by the end of 2023, which we got a week left, if the sun doesn't flip its magnetic pole in the next week that we have left in December, being right now, the week before, December 20th right now, 10 days, 11 days left in 2023. That then I think it's officially confirmed that we are in a new white pulsar age, and that is simply because that will be 2001 that it did not flip its pole and it started to pulse, and then 2012, 11 years later, the sun did not do its magnetic pole flip, and then now it's 2023, the very end of the year, and I have not seen or heard a single thing about the sun's pole flipping this year. So
do you follow Suspicious Observer at all? Any of his podcasts?
Sometimes, yes. Right. It depends on whether he's like doom and gloom and feeling like the world's gonna end, or like he didn't used
to be that. He was just reporting on the news.
Well, I know how it can get to guys like, psyche, like just like, oh my god, there's cataclysms. Oh my god, it looks like we're in this shit right now. Oh my god, shit is changing. What?
We honestly do not know. We can't know. And we look at other stars in our galaxy and planetoids around them, and like, this is a water planet because of the vibration that we get from this telescope looking, 8 to 20 light years or more away. And it's like, how do we even know? How do we even tell that?
Right?
We can't even see into the interior of our own planet, let alone any of these objects. So there's a lot of question going on there.
We don't even know what tribes we are in our DNA. Like, you know what I mean? Don't get me started on we identify with countries that weren't even called that not too long ago.
Speaking of DNA, we were discussing earlier that DNA libraries recently were confiscated and invaded at some point, at some level.
Really?
And so this is kind of reminiscent during the Gulf crisis when all these cuneiforms were raided and
yeah.
And it was a massive security breach, which released almost 7 million individuals. So they were fighting over the data of like almost 7 million people.
Excuse
And
me.
they were fighting over this. Like,
Are you able to pull this up? Can I share it? Can
yeah,
you
the 23andMe massive security breach.
That is super frightening on so many levels.
Why?
So yeah, that's
it's
personal genetic
interesting.
information, and how much data that is. And it's like, that's a beyond violation, because you could clone. I mean, the things you could do with that.
That's
know who
that's
everyone
as
is,
sacred
duplicate
as
them.
the seed vault in Norway, in a sense, right?
Right. Just like I always talk about, 1 gram of DNA holds 455 exabytes of data. So
Right.
that's just 1 gram. Imagine 6.9 million individuals' DNA. And what the power
And
of
on one
having
strand
that.
of DNA, you can write the entire world's history and the encyclopedia like 50 times over or
I
more.
It
believe we
stores
are
all the
watching
information.
right.
So it's like total domination
So
having
down.
that.
And they've done DNA / information teleportation from New York to England.
Well, they say certain genetics
What?
can only fly certain ancient crafts. Like only certain genetics can. So you could probably hack into certain things if you have the DNA, or if you could take that DNA and create your own army of people to fly whatever, access whatever with the codes.
So this is interesting you say this, because Farrell, I'm kind of paraphrasing or speaking for him, I shouldn't be, but in some of his research, he's discovered that in the Umer Elish and the ancient Sumerian scripts that read like the Seer's catalog, index, basically, they discovered the tablets of destiny. Some of them had to be destroyed, some of them had to be buried, and some of them were repurposed. Okay, so what are these tablets? Well, they're a weapon system of sorts, which is interesting.
Oh.
And some of them are only accessible, which is why they couldn't access them unless they had specific bloodlines.
Right.
Well, what's interesting about that is, any of you guys watch Stargate?
Yeah.
Did they not disclose that in Stargate? If you don't have the ancient blood, you can't save the planet from the Atlantis base, or so on and so forth. And it's very interesting because this comes directly out of these ancient Sumerian tablets, directly.
Wow.
So the fact that you're bringing this up is mind-boggling. Thank you. This is awesome.
Portaling through, and I've always felt that Stargate, like,
Disclosure 303.
there's Sumerian
I've never
artifacts
seen it.
that look like the freaking portal rings of Stargate, and you just can't help but wonder, what was that the time of the demigods, the aliens, the
What's the device, the energy device that they have to keep finding to power their devices? This is the Jed pillar from ancient Egypt. It's like, oh my god.
I sent Bernie a video of like they hit a giant
Z point, whatever. Anyway, Z point.
I sent Bernie a video of like these like a giant sighting. And where was that, Bernie? Thailand? And there's some like
it's a sighting of craft.
A giant, like it's a giant on a
giant.
mountain, and it looks like
Let
he
me
crawled.
see if I can bring that up. Let me see if
It looks like he crawled, like ducks back down and goes into the mountain. And like what I've discovered in my area, because Catalina is like 26 miles, like 38 miles from me.
Catalina is huge.
They speak
Right?
of blonde-haired, blue-eyed giants that would guard these portals or these stargates, and that they're not all these like nefarious. Yeah, there it is. Okay, there it is.
And
then
shout out
watch
Lord.
it how it, like how it climbs back in.
There we go.
Okay,
so this is on top of a ridge.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, where we
go?
So
I worked with Brian Forrester and L.A. Marzulli when L.A. went down to Peru. He was doing his
oh, there he goes. He crawled back in.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was done.
LA is like super religious, but he had a thought about the giants and all this. And since he put that publication out, you've got everybody now talking about giants. Hugh Newman and all friends of mine. They're all of a sudden everybody's excited about giants. And it's interesting because a lot of these, they elongated
discovered this in like a long time ago.
A lot of the elongated skull people in Peru were 7 foot or above. Some of them, not all of them. I'm just saying. And when Brian did DNA, extracts from them, their haplogroup all came out of like northern Iran, Azerbaijan, Black Sea area, and so this is interesting because this gets into the Polynesian, aspect as well. So you go to New Zealand and the Maoris. Everybody's like, oh, nobody was there 800 years ago. And it's like, but they have 2,000 years of cultural family lineage that they talk about, and so they've been there.
Right?
And a lot of them are redhead and green-eyed, and so they started doing DNA scatters, and their DNA haplogroup came out of Azerbaijan and Iran. And it's interesting that we're going to have now a live action movie from Disney about Maui, right? Or Moana, I guess, is the movie name, but it deals with the god Maui, which is going to be played by The Rock, of course, because he did the voice in the original animation. But Maui is an interesting character because in lore and legend of Polynesia, Maui unified all the island groups from New Zealand all the way literally up to Alaska. Okay.
Really? What
we're not told is Maui is also known as Maui. And he was an Egyptian or an ancient Cometian, admiral of the sea 2,000-3,000 years ago. He sailed for the king at that time to find other lands outside of the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, and the Indian Ocean area and conquer them for Egypt. And so you get to Peru, and the first thing that you find in the basement, or it's not the first thing, it's like halfway around the basement in the gold museum at Larco Lima Museum in Lima, Peru, is these Egyptian headdresses and chest plates. And the headdresses have 2 columns that come up and circularize at the top. One of them is smooth. The other 2 have textures on them, okay? If you look at ancient Egyptian glyphs, these are the headdresses of Amun. There's no way you can look at it. Yeah, the Amun. And Amun was the 5th phase of the sun. He meant the hidden. It was the extreme of enlightenment. And it also was duality. So it was the phase between light and dark. And that's the reason of the 2 columns. These are not Inca or ancient Peruvian artifacts. These are Egyptian. There's no way you can look at them and say they're not, if you know what you're looking for. If you know what you're looking at, for that matter. And so it's like, oh my God. Like, this is right here in Egypt. And so, then you realize that Maui, this Egyptian admiral, was sailing through all of Polynesia all the way up to Alaska. And there's this amazing series. It's a 3-part series that talks about this, called Skeletons in the Cupboard. Where did the redheads go? There's 3 parts. They talk about the ancient civilizations of the Moai, or the Moai, Maui, and the people of New Zealand, anyway, the Maori, right? Okay, so these are all transliterations of the same name. And then they talk about their history through all of Polynesia. And then the 3rd episode is all about going up into Alaska. And the whole Alaskan route is interesting because they would go up there and fish and then leave their totem and their oars behind that were all artistically carved. And they're all the same motif all the way to New Zealand through Polynesia. The exact same motif.
Really?
Yeah, you got to really scratch your head about that. Anyway.
That's going to be an episode all upon its own that we're going to have to do.
I agree.
2024. Sorry, I'm going to have to keep this one short tonight to an hour as the wife is just getting off work. And, well, it's almost the solstice, so it's cold here in Canada, and it's dark. Since
do you guys have ice over? I remember crazy ice overs in Calgary.
Oh yeah, there's like the roads are glacier for like the last like 4 or 5 weeks at least. Like, yeah, it's good old Birdo winter. Julie,
We'll
how
have
are you?
drive there,
Are you
and
nice and warm in California?
Yeah, it was. Well,
Yeah.
no, it rained. It rained, and yeah, isn't that crazy how the rain is like negative ions, but it has a positive effect on you?
of course,
It makes you
Yeah, and just
happier,
the
and
smell. Just the
I
fact.
love the
I'm
rain.
waiting for the rain to wash who I am. We've actually had amazing. The last 3 days here in Oregon have been like sunshine galore, but it's been this very bright sun, which is why it's concerning. It's like it shouldn't be that bright.
Yeah, it has, and it's been warm for what little sun we have up here, right? Because it gets dark at 4 p.m. and then it's like the sun
Oh, yeah.
doesn't rise until about like 9
When did the
a.m.
Chinook winds kick in again?
They're right now. They've been non-stop. So
Go
it's
on your shorts and your t-shirt and stretch it out.
yeah,
On the ice.
it's like plus 10 degrees Celsius, which I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but that's like a full 10 digits above freezing.
40, 30, 40 degrees. Yeah.
In the middle of the winter, it's just like, yes. And you can go out in the middle of the night, and it's like it'll be warmer at night just with this warm wind blasting you. It's so strange. It's like, right, we're up north.
I do miss that.
The Chinook.
Well, thanks, Brennigan. Everybody, happy solstice, happy
solstice,
Krampus, happy Yule, which is a Nordic tradition where Odin would fly through the skies with his angels. This is where we get Santa Claus from. The Sami culture, having
the Isis gave birth to Horus.
psychedelic trips. Isis gives birth to Horus. There's so many
The
things.
rebirth, the full moon, the
All of it right now.
all of it, and then the family and the care, the season of just this, the spirit of the season, right? Of giving, of getting together with loved ones, appreciating, and then the rebirth and the new year. And
everybody eat well, treat well, be well.
And we'll make it back maybe next Wednesday and get 10 in before the year's done. Who knows? It depends.
Oh, I was going to say not 9. I forgot. This is
right?
9.
This
so
is 9.
real quick, 9
Yeah.
is one of those magical numbers. I'm into all symbology. 9 is a number that you can add to itself. 9 plus 9 is 18. 18 is 1 plus 9, right? Or 1 plus 8, which is equal to 9.
I know.
Add another 9, you have 27. 2 and 7 is 9.
9 code.
36. 3 and 6 is 9. 45, 54, and so on and so on. And even the multipliers all equal 9. 9 is one of those incredibly super magical numbers. So I saw that in the headline tonight. Oh, I didn't realize this was episode 9. And I was going to say, oh, it's 11, 20, 20, 23, and that equals 9. And then I stopped and I was like, oh, shoot, it's 12, 20, 20, 23, which is 10, which is the number past 9. And 10 is the completion of the magic. And so here we are.
Reminds me of what was that with Chris Farley? They're like, he's like, did I catch a niner in there? Were you calling from a walkie-talkie?
Right? Classic.
I'm not sure. Listen, secrets of number 9, proof of God.
There's a lot there. So when we end this year, it will be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, it's not sharing. Sorry. For reference of what the heck I'm talking about, here's the video. It's called
the number 9.
Proof of God.
Yeah, this is in my book on symbology as well, the 9 circular. 9 is everywhere. It's such a fascinating number. It really is.
And it's made of 3s and 6s.
Well, what was Tesla's magic number? 369. 3 plus 6 equals 9.
Don't they say you like reincarnate 9
9
times?
plus 9 is 18, so it's always 9, right? 369 is 18, which is 9.
Yeah, that's a whole nother 9 episodes that we will have to get into.
Yeah, we have many. Since I'm doing it, my new book is on symbology. we need to definitely tap into some of this because there's so much. Oh my god! And I like to get into movie symbology. We didn't do any of this last time.
Episode 9, number 2 next year before we will get many more of these. But I've really got to run. Wishing everybody the most blessed of holiday season, and thank you all for joining. Ta-ta.
Enjoy.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just Bernie.